Well, everyone, the world is going cold, and you know what that means. It's time to break out the hoodies. And I've got my special Tremonti hoodie right here that I got at the concert last night when I went to go see Trivium and Tremonti live. Specifically, we're going to be talking about the newest Trivium album in this video, entitled Silence in the Snow. Now, this is an album that has polarized many people. Some really don't like it, some dig it just a little bit, but others still are just kind of torn in between. I haven't really seen a lot of people say that it's their best album, and really that's different because every single album that they put out, I've seen at least a few arguments for why that Trivium album is their best album yet. So, for those of you who are new to my channel, I actually did Trivium's discography in 2013 as part of my Summer of Discography reviews, where I reviewed everything in the month of July for Trivium up to In Waves. So, Trivium EP to In Waves, and then of course I covered Vengeance Falls when it came out a couple months later. So, today we're going to pick up from where we left off with Silence in the Snow, which is a very, very interesting album, because really, there's no screaming on it. That's not the entire reason why people don't like it. So, for all those people who are defending this album, and I'm actually going to do my fair share of defending too, so don't think I'm being confrontational or anything, but for all of the people who are defending this album by saying, oh, people just don't like it because there's no screaming on it. No. People don't like it because they perceive the instrumental parts, the instruments, and the melodies and the song structures to be a bit more bland, a little bit more commercialized, a little bit more smoothed over, kind of like what Shinedown did with their Threat to Survival album, where they just kind of smoothed over everything and made it sound very feel-goodish and very poppy, very catchy, very hookish. They failed completely at it. There are few bands that can change their style so drastically and make it work, and I think Trivium is actually one of those bands. Every album they releases sounds different in one way or another, to be honest, but for all intents and purposes with this album, Silence in the Snow, I am in the latter category that I summed up with the polarization, where I think it's good, but it doesn't really extend to beyond that into the realm of amazing like most of their other albums. I think Trivium are pretty much playing it pretty safe here, and that's really easy to say with the addition of songs such as Until the World Goes Cold, the title track, Blind Leading the Blind, and of course you've got some songs that have a little bit of aggression in there, like Dead and Gone and The Ghost That's Haunting You. Breathe in the Flames, the chorus has some aggressive vocals or gritty vocals from Matt Heafy, but no screaming. So there's not really that much need for it, though, on this album. I think this is more of a rock-based album as opposed to a metal album that what we're used to with Trivium on albums like In Waves. So with this album, I think I am not really disappointed, but I was expecting a little bit more, especially out of Trivium. I thought this was going to be a complete train wreck when I heard the later two singles, Blind Leading the Blind and the Until the World Goes Cold, the latter of which I can't really stand still. The former I've actually grown to really like, especially hearing it in conjunction, in consecutive order with the rest of the album. It has a nice spot. It has a nice flow with the rest of the album. It's very catchy, and it sounds a lot like Inception of the End. Like I said, on my Facebook, I actually have a mashup of Inception of the End and Blind Leading the Blind on my Daily Motion account called Inception Leading the Blind, so check it out if you want to. But Until the World Goes Cold, I must say, even though I don't like that song that much, it sounds a lot better live. I didn't really like it live either, but it sounds better, I will say that. So I was going to include a concert review of Trivium and combine it with this review, but I think it would be better served if I did a separate video, because then I could just talk about Trivium. I couldn't talk about the other two bands, Wilson and Tremonti, right here, that played. And Tremonti is pretty much the entire reason I went. I mean, I've already seen Trivium, so it was a nice bonus to see Trivium, especially with the new album dropping in 2 days, but I do think that they could have done a lot more with it. They're playing it really safe here, and you can tell. One thing that I do really like is the fact that they were able to cross over and transcend genres into the rock field versus just going out, you know, all-out balls-to-the-wall metal. I mean, I would have preferred if they would have done something in the realm of, say, Shogun or Ember to Inferno, kind of mix those two concepts into something brand new. but it is what it is. This is what we have, and it's not bad, to be honest. It's just a straight up rock album, and that's my personal opinion. The intro, Snowfall, this is a really interesting one that I did want to talk about and single out for sounding like the overworld theme of Final Fantasy VII. Again, not a blatant ripoff, but it is there, and there are a lot of similarities, and it's actually kind of cool, especially leading into Silence in the Snow, which is a song that gets stuck in your head very easily. A lot of these songs on here are like that. At least 3 or 4 different tracks get stuck in my head, as well as my girlfriend's head. I randomly catch her humming the chorus to Silence in the Snow, and it's kind of cool that, you know, I kind of got my girlfriend into heavy metal, and now she goes to all these concerts with me, so I feel kind of proud about that. But as far as this album goes, it's just good. I wouldn't necessarily say it's amazing. It's definitely not better than Vengeance Falls. I'm probably just going to give it an 8 out of 10. Was going to give it 8.5, but then I really got around to thinking about it. It's not really better than their first album, and even though I rated The Crusade like a 7.5 or 7.6 or whatever, I'd probably have to lower my rating a little bit to a 7 or a 6-ish, probably like a 7. That album does have a lot of good songs on it, but my opinions have changed since making that review, so it is what it is. Like I said, 2 years have passed. I'm probably going to do some retrospects on my reviews because I don't really like Vengeance Falls either as much as I liked it back then. So I guess opinions change as time goes on. Silence in the Snow for me, though, it has a few songs on it that I will probably be replaying over and over again just because of how catchy they are, because of, you know, how polished they sound. This is one of Trivium's best produced albums that they've ever made. I mean, usually with Trivium, the former best one, in my opinion, was Ascendancy. Usually with Trivium, they've got really good music, but their production on the albums really is lacking. And for me, that's a huge part in it. I mean, The Crusade, everything sounded a little bit thin. Ascendancy was perfect. It was aggressive. It was heavy. In Waves sounded a bit like Degent, or like Degent. It was a little bit staticky and airy and a little bit hollow in the production field. Vengeance Falls is a little bit better, but this is pristine. I mean, if they could apply the production of this, the production quality of this album with some of their earlier work or some of that style and combine it in their next album, that'd be great. But for an effort where Matt blew out his voice the preceding year and then came back with something like this, that's pretty damn good. That's something to be proud of a little bit. You know, his voice sounds good on here, a little bit cheesy in some parts and cliche, but in my opinion, it still sounds like it holds up. So, 8 out of 10, this is Midnight Strike 3625. Keep calm and rock on.